Hello, welcome back once again. This week I am not doing the video that I originally planned on doing, but given the amount of conversations I've been having with you guys over on Facebook, on social media, in my Instagram DMs, over on my membership as well, I thought it was a good subject to kind of get out there, have a discussion about today, and hopefully help a lot of you who are going through some really tough times at the moment. And that is, of course, the subject of coronavirus weddings at the moment and all the changes that are going on. I wanted to cover and round up some advice today about how to make a decision on what to do, how to cut your guest list if that's what you need to do, some really cute ideas of what you can do on your wedding day to still make it really, really special, and some general advice on how to know what's going on, what you should do, and how to keep up with everything. This is going to be a decision that is playing on so many of your minds at the moment, and as time continues, it's going to affect a lot more people. So I really hope that this video helps you move forward in your decision and gives you some really nice ideas. If we haven't met before, my name is Beth and I'm a professional wedding planner here in the UK, and this channel is my little wedding world. Alongside with my affordable wedding planning membership, I make sure that wedding planning is way less stressful, so much easier and so much more enjoyable. On a side note, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed to this channel, watched the videos, shared on social media and supported me through this whole process of growing the channel. We are just about to hit 500 followers and we might have done so by the time this video launches, and I am so excited and proud to say that. I launched YouTube as a little side project during lockdown to help out anyone struggling through wedding planning and not knowing what to do, and also to build a little excitement around wedding planning in some really kind of dark times that we had where we couldn't get out and do all the things that we wanted to do. Never did I think I was a girl who could grow a YouTube channel, let alone even talk on camera. So thank you so much. I've got a little goal to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you're not subscribed already, hit that button and try and help me get to that goal a little bit sooner. So let's get started with this video. How do you even make a decision on what you're going to do? Do you postpone or cancel your wedding? Do you decide to have a smaller ceremony and a little celebration now and then transfer a big party to in the future? Or do you go full in and have an intimate or elopement ceremony now with a full reception of what you're allowed to do? Unfortunately, we really don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of months. Having a crystal ball would be absolutely amazing at the moment, and I know this is such a hard decision for you all. The decision is going to be so personal to you, and every single couple out there is going to have their own reasons and decisions they make for their personal situations. Whether they can't wait to get married and they feel like their life's on hold, so a smaller ceremony and reception is perfect for them. Or maybe you're okay with it and you want to postpone, you want everyone there to celebrate with you, and pushing it back to next year or even 2022 is something that you're absolutely happy to do. But for those of you that do want to go ahead with something now, maybe it's a minimony with a sequel wedding next year, or it's an intimate wedding ceremony and reception with whatever numbers you're allowed to have, I'm going to focus on this area today and just show you all the ways that it can be made that little bit easier to kind of reorganize and do it, and what kind of things you can do to make sure that the whole day is still that magical, beautiful, romantic day that you always planned. The biggest question I get from everyone who has decided to go ahead with their wedding is, how do we go about cutting that guest list down? You may have had 100, 80, 150, 200 people on your original wedding guest list, and now you're faced with maybe 15, or if you're in Wales, 30 guests, or whatever you're allowed to do at the time of watching this. So when it comes to looking at this guest list, you're going to have to cut down, and this is a really big conversation you've got to have as a couple, and you've kind of got to come to a decision that works for both of you. The first thing you're going to need to do is count 2 of you as guests, because you do count in these numbers, so take that out of the equation first off. Next, I would suggest that you take the remaining guests that you've got, divide it equally between the 2 of you, so you've got the same amount of guests that you're inviting. I know this isn't always going to be as simple as that. One of you may have 3 siblings and the other might be an only child, but it's the best way to divide it to start with, and then you can kind of talk of who maybe has some extra guests because a larger family and things like that. The next step is to create a VIP list, those people that you cannot imagine getting married without, and if you're going to have a small ceremony, they're the people that you have to invite. Now with a small ceremony, that's probably just going to include your immediate family and grandparents. For them, this is such an important milestone in your life. It's really nice if you can include them as well. People are going to be really upset that they can't come and celebrate your wedding day with them, but they're likely going to understand. It's not like you're trying to hide the fact fact of how many people you're allowed to your wedding. It's all over the news. People know that you're in a really difficult position and you have to cut down. It may mean that you can have a couple of friends attend the wedding if you've got a smaller family, but this may mean that they can't have +1s and they can't bring children to the wedding. Yes, this is hard to say to them, but they are going to understand, and most people who love and care for you will just accept what you've got to do. As a couple, you're going to need to decide who's in and who's out, and unfortunately this means that you will have to go to family members and likely say that they can't invite any extra guests that you haven't seen in a long time. It is really going to be down to that immediate family that you see all the time and you definitely can't see having your wedding without. If the idea of cutting down to just 15 or 30 guests is just not impossible, you can't do it, you've got too much of a family, too large of a family, you just cannot cut it down, but you do really want to get married at the moment so you can move on with your life and celebrate in the future, then maybe an elopement or something like that is a better option for you. This means it'll just be the two of you plus witnesses. You can do the legal side of everything, you can be married, you can move on with your life and then celebrate in the future. Again, because of the situation you're in, a lot of people are going to be expecting that call. They're going to be expecting the uninvitation. But during this process of kind of uninviting them, letting them know what you plan to do in the future can be a really positive way of looking forward to the next steps and what you will like to include them in. The other question I get asked all the time is, how do I actually uninvite people? And doing anything over text, over email, group messenger, that sort of thing is just really impersonal. And although they might be expecting it, actually picking up the phone or going to see them in person is such a better way to do it and so much more personal. So I know it totally takes a lot of time, but picking up that phone, maybe divide the guest list in half, each of you calling all of your relatives and family members, friends, all that sort of thing, having that conversation with them is so much nicer to do than just sending out one email and kind of getting it all over and done with in one go. Before you make these calls, perhaps you can have a conversation together and maybe set up a Zoom session where you can live stream parts of the wedding day, the ceremony, things like that. On that call then, when you kind of uninvite them, you can say, but we'd love to invite you to the Zoom side of the wedding, and maybe send something out in the post, a bit of cake, a favour, an invitation to the Zoom wedding, something like that, so they get a little gift in the post, they can dress up and they can enjoy the wedding day with you, albeit virtually, not quite the same, but it's still having them there in some sort of way. Although you've gone to all this effort of cutting down the list and it has been so hard to come up with that VIP list that's going to be actually there on your wedding day, there may still be circumstances where some of those people can't attend. Maybe they're elderly and they're shielding, there may be local lockdowns, they may not be just happy to travel at the moment for whatever reasons, and you do have to kind of open yourself up to knowing that this might happen and don't get too stressed about it. I always kind of suggest having this B-list created, although please don't call your guests the B-list and the VIP list, it's not very nice to do, but having this B-list as a backup, so you know if someone says that they won't be able to attend your wedding, you can quickly contact someone else and ask them if they can come in their place. Because having a small wedding and being restricted on these numbers, of course you're going to want to make sure that you've got as many people there as you possibly can. The second area of kind of arranging a wedding during COVID times is to keep up to date with all the rules and regulations. As we know, these can change really quickly, and you need to be up to date with what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So I always suggest that having your local government websites saved on your web browser is the best way. Every time you log onto your computer, you can click on those, read the latest updates, check if anything's changed, and you know the correct information firsthand. Try not to rely too much on Facebook groups, on social media, on strangers on the internet telling you and keeping you up to date with the information. It's always best to get it firsthand. I have seen so much kind of false information going around on the internet. The last thing I'd want you to do is read that information, believe it, go ahead with your wedding, and then realise that you could actually have had more guests than what that person on Facebook said to you, or in fact that they gave you false information and you're going to end up with a fine because of it. So make sure you're informed and get the right information firsthand for yourself. Next, there will be some things that you need to do which are different to planning a normal wedding. So there's some extra tasks and extra steps you're going to want to take, and one of these is going to be contacting your venue, your wedding planner, whoever's kind of in charge of all the things on the day, and finding out what extra kind of precautions and things that they need to put into place for your wedding day to make it COVID safe. Things like finding out when your guests are going to need to wear masks. Are there going to be one-way systems in place around the wedding venue that you need to think about? Is there going to be any additional signage around the venue? Are you going to be required to have sanitizing stations and hand sanitizer around the place? How does it all work with the food service? How will your guests be served to the table? How will that change your meal? Will the bar service come to the table? How's that going to work? There's a lot of different questions that you're going to want to speak to them about and know what kind of the situation is going to be before the day, so you can plan for it. Things you may want to consider yourself as well is, what's the outdoor space like at your venue? Can you utilize that a bit more? Do they have some sheltered areas outside where if it's raining, people can still go outside, so not everyone's in one kind of enclosed room throughout the whole day? Do they have fire pits? Do they have patio heaters that can keep it warm and maybe a little bit more inviting out there in the colder months? Also, looking at what kind of tables and chairs the venue have got. As you will all know, bubbles and the way that people have to sit at the table is a little different to normal, and people do have to be sat in their households in extended bubbles. So maybe for some people this is only 2 people sat at a table, but for others this could be 6. So you may need to look at having smaller tables and larger tables to accommodate this, and how that actual layout would work in your room. Having different layouts in the room compared to what you traditionally would have is a way of making it feel less sparse, using the space you've got and really kind of changing things up to work for you, not how they would have worked in the past. And the other thing you'll need to think about is obviously the track, trace and protect sort of system, where you've got to gather everyone's details. The venue may be doing this for you, so have a little chat with them and see how it all works. I know this all sounds really serious, and I'm not saying these things to scare you off. I think COVID weddings can be done in such an amazing way, and if you know what to expect, then you know what to plan for. You can have a chat with your stationery company beforehand, so if there's signage that needs to be put up, you can have it done in your style, and maybe some nicer wording that sounds less clinical and more wedding friendly. And you can talk to this with your stationer and they can come up with really nice ways to do it. Equally, we've had guest books and kind of card and table areas for years. Well, now we might have to do a sanitizing table as well, but you can go ahead and have special sanitizing bottles for that, which are maybe labeled with your wedding. You could have scented ones so they don't smell quite as kind of sterile as some of the other ones do, and you can really design them to fit in with the wedding theme. Even the fact that your guests may have to wear masks for a lot of the wedding day, why don't you buy personalised wedding masks and put your names and the date of the wedding on them? So at least if everyone's wearing them, they're all wearing matching ones and it's a bit of fun. Embrace the changes that we have to have rather than trying to hide it. Have fun with it, and you actually might design some really nice things for your wedding day that you never expected to have. Look at every area of your wedding day and kind of work out legally what you have to do and kind of morally what you have to do to look after your guests and suppliers' health and well-being, that's the word, and do it as you. You don't have to do it a certain way. You can make it so personal and so wedding friendly. And finally, here's some fun ideas to still make sure that your wedding, no matter how small it is, no matter what the kind of situation is around it, is still fun and beautiful and magical, just like you planned. Although a wedding of 15, 30 people, whatever you're allowed, is not really what you had in mind when you first started planning your wedding, there actually can be some real nice benefits to it. Having a smaller guest list means it can be really personal throughout the day. You can sit and talk to all your guests, you have a really intimate time, and you've also got a lot more budget to spend per guest. This allows you to spend more money on guest experience. You can spend more on flowers and fill the space in areas that you might be worried might feel a little bit sparse with big flower displays or backdrops that people can take photos with and really enjoy and give that full-on wow factor. As some of the more traditional evening entertainment with kind of big live bands, DJs, dance floors, that sort of thing aren't allowed, maybe focusing on the food is something that you want to do. And now having a smaller guest list, you can afford to kind of up that budget in the food and maybe have a bigger, grander, fancier meal if that's something that you're interested in. Wedding days are often so busy with so much going on and so many people to get round. So having this small wedding allows you to kind of step back, slow down and enjoy every moment. And you can throw things in like quiz games, group games, even kind of table wandering entertainment that comes to each guest is another idea to kind of give something to do within the afternoon. A COVID-friendly wedding, it doesn't mean that there has to be no music. You can still have pianists, cellos, string music, you can have acoustic performance, low level noise kind of acts and things like that. Still add that atmosphere and something to kind of go on in the background as you're sitting chatting and enjoying the afternoon. Whatever you choose to do, make sure it's the right decision for you two as a couple. Whether that be hold it off now till next year because everything that I've suggested today just fills you with dread and it's not what you ever dreamed of. Or maybe maybe looking at some of these ideas makes you think, actually, you know, it's not what we planned, but it is still something that we could do and something that we'd like to go ahead with and get married now and have whatever we can have. I have so many ideas for things you can do during COVID weddings, and I could probably sit here and talk for another hour, but this is just a taste of what you can expect, and I'm sure you can do research and find out so many different things online as well. Over on my Instagram and on my Instagram stories, I share loads of inspiration and pictures from different COVID weddings. So if you're looking for some help making that decision, maybe you're just interested in seeing what that wedding could possibly look like for you, come over and follow me, and my DMs are always open if you've got any questions. So I hope this has helped you in some sort of way, maybe coming to a decision or making your mind up. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button for me, and of course if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you are planning a COVID wedding and you've made a decision on what you're going to do, whether that's postponement or go ahead, drop into the comments below and let me know what you decided to do, when your wedding was for, and when your new date is planned. Can't wait to hear from you all, and I will see you on a future video very, very soon. Bye!